Hi, today I'm going to be doing some soldering on, this is not electrical, this is structural soldering. I've heard people say that they've avoided projects because they don't like soldering. To me this is just another thing to learn, and it's not that difficult once you figure it all out. I had some really good help from some good friends, and this is what I've picked up over time. The first thing though is always clean the items that you're going to be soldering really well. I use Scotch-Brite. In this case I've got a brass tube. Just clean up the brass tube with the Scotch-Brite. I've done all this previously, but wanted to show you. I also use fine sandpaper for some of the small parts here. I'm going to be doing some washers. Just sand them wherever wherever you want the solder to adhere. And then for the inside diameter, which is critical in this particular case, I'll use a rat tail file and just clean out that center. Not trying to change the dimension, but you want to get rid of any oxidation, any dirt. And then the inside of the tube, which is going to be going onto the piano wire, I'll take that same rat tail file and I'll clean out the inside. Make sure that there's no oxidation or dirt in there. And we're good to go on those. So I've already cleaned the piano wire right there. I've got the brass tube held in place, and I've got the washer. The next trick that I've found is never just leave something kind of loose or handheld and expect it to hold. Always clamp it so that there's absolutely no chance of moving. So in this case I've got the brass tube clamped there, the piano wire clamped there, and the washer that's going to be the stop for the wheel is clamped right there. I'll then put some flux on the joints. This is really for electrical soldering, but in this case it works just as well. A couple of drops. Then I'm using a 100-watt iron. In this case I've got a really heavy piano wire axle rod, so I need plenty of heat, and if you use a 30-watt to 40-watt, it's going to take a long time and it might never get hot enough. Clean the tip real well, and then apply the iron to the heaviest part. In this case the biggest heat sink is the piano wire axle. Might put a dab of solder there just to make sure that the heat is getting transferred real well. And then hold the solder wire on the far side of the joint and let it wick in there. Once the wire's hot enough, move the iron over to the next piece, which in this case is the tube, and let the heat wick in that solder. Now see, I've moved the washer that's on there, so I'm going to reposition before I continue. Taking that off again. Make sure I've got the washer square to the tube. Now we'll put some heat over here. And again, I'm putting the solder wire to the far side, not to the iron itself. And let the heat wick that solder around. Unfortunately, the alligator clip here is forming a bit of a heat sink in itself. Take the iron away, let everything cool. So removed from the clamps, this is what the final soldering looks like before cleaning it off, getting rid of the flux. And then I take a wire brush and clean it off. And here we go with the second side of the axle. Same again. Just a touch there to make sure that the heat is being transferred well to the surface. All the wire to the other side of the piano wire. And there it goes, starts wicking in. And then we'll do the washer stay. Getting myself bumping here. And let it cool. Looks a bit messy back there. We can clean that up with a red tail file or a flat file. Like I say, just clean up a bit of a mess there with a file.